Greetings. Welcome to Limitless Alchemy 808, a channel of divine reflection. I'm Patience. I wanted to come on and make a video of reflection for the past week. Today is July 6th, and 7 plus 6 is 13. So there's a lot of change, transformation, and rebirth happening for all of us right now. And we just had 4th of July. I wouldn't call them celebrations because essentially what 4th of July stands for is extremely contradictory. I've said in previous videos that I love this country and that this country is so great and that there are no countries without their faults. There are no countries that are free from iniquity. And while I still love this country, I even posted a short that I will link in the description box below, but doing my DNA, I found out that I actually have I guess a great uncle that was a captain in the American Revolution. He was born in Pennsylvania in 1744, and he actually even guarded British soldiers that were prisoners trying to escape, and he and his battalion had escorted these prisoners from Reading to Lancaster in Pennsylvania. And after the war, he became a proprietor of a hotel, but then spent the rest of his days in a smaller township in Pennsylvania called Cumru, and his grave is unknown. And just knowing how deep-rooted all of us are within each place that we are in, because we are in the perfect place, in the perfect pace, with the perfect people when we're with them. It's really disheartening to say that I wouldn't mind becoming a Canadian, just because of the fact that when our whole West Coast, so California, Washington, and Oregon, join Canada, I mean, Stephen Miller will get his wish. He will only have 1 million citizens in the United States because everyone's gonna leave. Everyone's going to move to Canada. And even with the whole population of Canada, California's population outweighs that. And that just to me seems like the best option for us to, because even though California, Southern California, could be its own country, there's a lot to be said for strength in numbers. And that would be the biggest and clearest message to the rest of the world. We don't abide by this shit. That we don't accept what they're trying to shovel down our throats. And there's always a lot of distractions and sidelining going on to divert attention away from the fact that they're still bombing in Gaza. Recently, Israel bombed a very famous seaside cafe that they said they were surveilling heavily and felt that it was full of Hamas leaders when it was clearly full of civilians. There were journalists there, and according to reports, Israel deems journalists as Hamas because they don't want what they're doing to be getting out to the rest of the world. They don't want the genocide that they're committing to be broadcasted, to be known, to be talked about. It's really interesting how Israel is mirroring its past. And I mean, I'm only 0.6% Ashkenazi Jew, which means that my Jewish heritage is from Germany. So it's just extremely confusing, and I can't say that I don't cry almost every day because of all the suffering and cruelty, and we're just killing ourselves. We're just killing ourselves. And it's just so odd because I was watching an old Ricky Lake episode. It was about thinner friends who were jealous of their more voluptuous friends, their fat friends, that they said they got more dates than them being thinner women. And it was just a lot of outsourcing one's own validation, comparing to one another. And if you constantly compare yourself to someone else, you're never going to be enough. You're never going to be them. You can only be yourself. Yes, we pick up characteristics and personality traits from one another, and we share a lot of similarities and just shared interests in things, but really each of us is ourselves. Each of us is a unique iteration of the universe, because only each of us can do the things that we're doing in the way that we're doing them. When you're copycatting, you just have so much insecurity and lack of self-confidence and lack of self-concept. And that's okay. Those are things to become aware of and do away with, reject, transcend. And towards the end of the episode, this was like 19 what, 93 or 94, maybe even 1996. But basically the early 1990s. And towards the end of the show, one of the guests was an adult entertainer. I believe she's burlesque or something like that. But she was a larger person, and her name is Baby Jane. And she even said, and everyone just glossed over it, like even Ricky did not address it. Baby Jane said, we're all just souls in a skin suit. So just be you. And I was like, we already know this. We already understand what we are, why we're here, and what we're doing. And then I was watching two lovely drag queens. They are, I think, twins, but they are, I know for sure, brothers. Sugar and Spice. They're adorable. I love watching them. But Spice was actually talking about Mark Houghton and how we're, it's just this whole full circle of coming into the awareness and then seeing the awareness in others. And that is because those are our soul family. Those who are, even if we're not in close proximity in the 3D, we're all hanging out in the astral. We're all hanging out at the center. We're all hanging out in the void. But that's the beauty of you, is that you have all of these connections all over the world that you don't even realize until they present themselves to you. Because a lot of the connections that are around you in the physical, that are in close proximity, many of them have not come to that awareness, or they are resistant to acknowledging that awareness. But that's why they're around you. You're meant to activate them. You're meant to not prove anything. You're not here to save anyone. There's nobody to save. You can protect others. You can prevent harm from others. But there's no one's soul that needs saving. There's no one's it's just kind of like the whole savior complex. If you're gonna save anyone at all, just save yourself. And that just has a lot to do with spiritualism and religion and cults. When you start outsourcing your salvation to others, you start outsourcing your power to others, that is when you are just feeding the amnesia. You're feeding the illusion. Jesus even said himself, the kingdom of heaven is within. You can access it at any time. And that just further compounds Hermetic principles that whatever your internal reality is showing up, that will be reflected in your external reality. With all of the, wars and violence and human rights violations and disregard for one another, that's not a reflection of you. Those are distractions. Those are sideliners. And it's not to say that, oh, you can be happy and at other people's suffering, or you should be happy or not care about what other people are going through, because as I said, they are us. It is us. But the best thing that you can do is whatever is within your power. I know that when each of us is in our preferred position, when each of us is embodying the role that we're truly meant to embody, that we're always embodying the role we're meant to embody, but when we're in a position that we prefer, that we have seen for ourselves, what you do with that position, what you do with that role, what you do within that reality is the best for everyone, is the best for yourself. I had seen a morning cloak butterfly on a walk last week with my coworker, and the right side of the wings on the butterfly were malformed. They were slightly smaller and misshapen when compared to the left side. And for butterflies, that can happen during the pupa stage or during emergence. Either something happened while breaking out of the chrysalis, or they didn't have enough room to fully open their wings to dry out. And so when the wings dry, can be misshapen. And morning cloak butterflies, they live quite a substantial time longer than other species of butterfly, and they can even survive winters. And butterflies are a huge indicator of the stages of life, the adversities and challenges that each of us overcome. In particular, for those of us with neurodivergence, because to embody the light as we do, we realize that the differences that we have are because We're just that powerful. We're just that evolved. Neurodivergence is seen as a setback. It's seen as a de-evolution. But it's actually the next step. It is evidence of the progression of our minds, of the human experience. And even though the butterfly had misshapen wings, it flew just fine, and it was pretty big. It was adult, so there really wasn't anything wrong with it. It may have appeared different, it may have seemed to be an anomaly, but really there's nothing wrong with it. It's not destitute, it's not disabled, it's not damaged. It's just different. Why do we all want to be the same? Yes, we're all one, but why would we all want to be the same? It would be so boring. It would literally be so uninteresting if everyone was just a carbon copy of one another. Variety is the spice of life, and neurodivergence brings the variety. Even without neurodivergence, there's neurotypicals who bring spiciness as well, of course, because, they see variety as the essence. It is the joie de vivre. And sometimes you just gotta go real low before you can get to the highest of heights that you've ever achieved. And you're not for everyone. The way that you view this experience, and not that you fight against the flow of life, but how you go against the grain of society, or let's just call it the old programming, because it is extremely normalized to make hypersexual comments about children. It is extremely normalized to force children to mature faster than they're supposed to. And it's also normalized that many intelligent beings are seen as adults when they're not. They're children. And children are people, not property. The reason why hypersexualization and hypermaturation of children is so normalized is because it's been going on for so long. It's been embedded in the DNA of the experience. And that is why so many children are harmed. That is why so many children are deemed expendable, because some adults will treat children as adults when it benefits them, but once they do something that they don't like or care for, or want to put them in their place, you're very quick to remind them that they're not an adult. And it's extremely confusing. It's extremely misguiding. But that's why we're here, to be confusing, to be messy, to fuck shit up. It's all just part of the movie. It's all just part of the story. And you just keep doing what you're doing. You don't need me or any other person to tell you that what you're doing is the best thing, even at times when it's not the norm. It's not something that everyone is complicit with, but doesn't agree with regardless. But to not make any waves or ruffle any feathers, they go along, or they explain it away as, oh, it's family. No. Your boundaries are there for a reason, and they're not unreasonable. The greatest takeaway that I have from this past week, this transformative week, is that even when you feel like you're alone, you're not truly alone. As long as you believe in yourself, the universe must accommodate. The universe must bend to your will. And it is. It is. There's always a delay when it comes to making huge changes. No matter what you say, you're right. It's true. Because you only speak truths. So, perpetuating the mentality, the internalization, thank you, universe, the internalization that everything's fucked up, the world is shit, humans are the scum of the earth. It's true. You're right. No one's going to argue with you. But once you start aligning more with, we are perfect, we are all one, there is a role for each of us to play within this movie, within this story, and that we're all embodying those roles. You have an outlier perspective. You have transcended duality. And so you are the commander. You are the program. And soon enough, the more and more that you align with those mentalities, with those internalizations, the external reflection must follow suit and will. You're just gonna be so shocked. And I can't think of a more perfect person for it to happen to than you. I'll see you in the next one. Stay soft, stay sweet, stay pure, love yourself.